In this video, I'm going to show you some interesting ways you can use the page visibility API in JavaScript to either save the resources your website is using or just improve user interaction. And the first use case is pausing or playing a video. I got this free video from pixel.com. And let's say a user is watching this video and you want something where if they go to a different tab, you want to pause the video, and when they come back, you play the video from where they left off. You can do that with the page visibility API. And just to do a quick recap on the page visibility API, so in your documents, you can listen to an event called visibility change, and this event is triggered whenever you change tabs or change documents. So for example, here in the console, you can see it's empty. If I go to a different tab, that event is triggered, and if I come back, that event is triggered again, and here we now have changed tab twice. And how do we know if the user is actually leaving the tab or coming back to the tab? Well, we can check the hidden property of the document. If hidden is true, that means the user changed tab, but if it is not true, well, that means the user came back. So how can we use something like this for this video? Well, here we can get the video. I can now check if the document is hidden. Well, that means the user is leaving the tab. Then I call video.pause. But if the user is coming back, I call video.play. Now, if I go back and I refresh, when I start playing this video, you can see them walking 2, 3, 4, and at the 5th mark, I change tab. Now the video is paused. And when I go back, remember we stopped on the 5th mark. You can see the video picked up from the 5th mark to the end. Now for something like background videos, you might not want to do this because if the user is on another tab, you might still want the video to play. So of course, this depends on the kind of application you are building. If you're looking for how you can create such interaction, that is one way. Now another way is by showing pending notifications. Now let's say user is on a website and you keep throwing notifications to the user. In some cases, you might want the user to read those notifications, which means you have to ensure that the user is actually on the tab when the notification comes in. And how can we do that? Well, I have some code I have here, which I'm just going to uncomment for the sake of time. So here I have a notifications button and a notification container. So first I get the notifications button, then I get the notification container, and then here I have my notification queue. Then here I have generate notifications, which basically just simulate new notifications coming in at that interval. Now these notifications might be coming in based on a WebSocket connection or something else, but here we just have new notifications generated every 1 second, and it is added to the notification queue. And then here I can already call generate notifications. So if I refresh here, you see we have one notification, another notification, another notification, and so on. This is basically every second. Probably not realistic depending on your application, but if we go back here, I have this show notifications interval ID. I set it as null. I have this variable should show notifications. Currently it's false. And then I have this function where I show the notifications. Now basically what happens here is I have my interval which runs every 1 second. So at every 1 second I attempt to show that notification on the screen. Set interval returns an ID which I can assign to show notifications interval ID. I do this because at some point I might also want to clear the interval or stop the interval from running. In each interval, we get the first notification from the notification queue. We also remove it, and that's why I'm using shift. We create a notification element with some styles, and then I add that notification element to the notifications container. So here in my button, I can do add event listener click, then I set should show notifications, and then I show notifications. So if I come here now, we have a bunch of notifications on the right, but if I refresh again and I press get notifications, you're going to see that every 1 second we get this notification shown here. Now you can display this as a toaster. It can also disappear after some time. You can do whatever you want. Now what we want is that when the user goes to a different tab, we don't want the notifications to be added to the screen already until the user is back. And to achieve that, we can now come here, listen to the visibility change event on the document. If the document is hidden, we clear that interval that's currently showing the notification. But then when the user comes back to the tab, we check if should show notifications is true, and then we show notifications again. Now what happens is this: I'm going to refresh, I get notifications, I get 1, 2, 3, and then I change tab. Now I have just 3 notifications. I have more notifications coming in per second, but they are not displayed to the screen just yet. And when the user goes back, now from the 3rd notification, we go to the 4th one, the 5th one, the 6th one. Again, this depends on the kind of application that you're building, but the usefulness here is that if the user is not currently on that tab, showing a notification that the user might care about, they might miss it before they are back to the tab. So this way you ensure that the user is actually on the tab when that notification comes in. running. So now the third case you can use page visibility API is to reduce background activity. We already saw an example of that with these intervals where we clear the interval when the user leaves the tab, but another way is with WebSocket connections. So let's say we have a WebSocket connection. I don't have a real one here, so I'm just going to use some demo examples. I have a function here where I start the WebSocket. I create the socket instance. Here I can do my socket messages, the onMessage event, send message, receive message, whatever it is. And I have this onClose event, which is called when the socket closes. And then I have this function here, which is stop WebSocket. All it does is it check if the socket variable, this global variable here, if it is a truthy value, we close the socket and then we set it back to null. Now what I can do here again is to add an event listener visibility change. If the user leaves the tab, we stop WebSocket. If the user is back to the tab, we start the WebSocket again. And then we can also just start the WebSocket when the user loads the website the first time. Now one usefulness in this is that you might not want multiple socket connections open on a user's browser. Let's say for example they open 5 tabs. Now you basically have 5 socket connections to your server. There are different ways you can optimize this. Of course, from your server you can check the browser information or check the user information to know if it's the same user. Of course, there are various ways you can optimize this, but by using the page visibility API, we can have something where if the user changes tab, we stop that socket. Now on that new tab, if they open your website again, we have a different socket, but at least you don't have multiple sockets running. Now these are just some examples that might not apply to your current application, but the goal of this video is just to show you how you can save resources, like I said at the beginning, or improve user interaction with the page visibility API. And this API is very useful when you want to make some changes or turn some things inactive if the user is not currently on the document that you expect them to be on. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with others, and also subscribe for more videos like this.